This is Neil Sun Dynasty. Hi, how's it going? Please like, share, subscribe. Be kind, helpful, and grateful. Carry a big stick because there's a lot of jerks out there that don't want to be kind, helpful, and grateful, and they're going to go by the wayside. And buy some silver, some platinum, and some crystallized osmium because that's sound advice, not financial whatsoever. But that's not what this is about. This is about Neil being early with every prediction he has. Now Utria, the neo-Nazi black African dictatorship of 45 years, who enslaves his whole freaking country into servitude for him, the president of Eritrea, Somalia, and Egypt have formed a coalition against Ethiopia. Egypt's hopping in on this because they can't fight Ethiopia on their own. About a year and a half ago, I did a report saying that Egypt wanted to attack Ethiopia, and I was wondering how they were going to do it because they're weak, pathetic Islamic nation they're cowards and they can't do nothing. So they're getting some African countries together, giving them money to go to war with Ethiopia. How pathetic is Egypt, really? Egypt, you are pathetic as a nation, and you need to go the way of the dodo bird. Here's the report, people.
Horn of Africa, shifting alliances are shaping a complex geopolitical landscape as Eritrea, Egypt, and Somalia have recently come together in what appears to be a strategic axis that could challenge Ethiopia. The leaders of these three countries met in Asmara, Eritrea, to discuss mutual cooperation and regional security, sparking speculation about their intentions towards Ethiopia. The summit concluded with a statement emphasizing respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the countries in the region, which many see as a veiled reference to Ethiopia's aspirations for access to a seaport, something it currently lacks as a landlocked nation. Ethiopia's exclusion from these discussions, along with the countries involved, hints at a growing rift that could reshape regional dynamics. Eritrea's strained relations with Ethiopia date back to the bloody border war they fought between 1998 and 2000. Although a peace agreement was signed in 2018, leading to Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed winning the Nobel Peace Prize, the relationship soured again following Ethiopia's civil war in the Tigray region. Eritrea initially supported the Ethiopian government during the conflict, but has since distanced itself following the peace accord that ended the fighting in November 2022. Eritrea's lukewarm stance on the accord and its reluctance to re-engage fully with Addis Ababa reflect a lingering distrust and a sense of rivalry over regional influence. Egypt's discord with Ethiopia revolves primarily around the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, a massive hydroelectric project on the Nile River. Egypt fears that the dam will significantly reduce the flow of water downstream, jeopardizing its water security, which heavily relies on the Nile. For over a decade, this issue has been a source of intense
Okay, first off, Egypt is pathetic because they think they own the water rights of Ethiopia, a separate sovereign country. And when Egypt and Sudan and a couple other countries got together to do water rights on the Nile River, they didn't even talk to Ethiopia. Yet the Blue Nile originates on Ethiopia soil. All the water coming from the Blue Nile is Ethiopian water. And Egypt and Sudan told them to get screwed. They're just going to pretend that Ethiopia doesn't own their own water, and they're going to take all the rights of it. And Egypt built a country off of stolen water rights that they took from Ethiopia. Now Ethiopia is saying, screw you, Egypt, and Egypt's feeling pain, as they well should. They should feel more pain. Egypt needs to go the way of the dodo bird, as far as I'm concerned. They're a pathetic, pathetic government. But they're also greedy and selfish, but that's how Islamic countries are. Uh, Egypt is a piece of crap, and so is Eritrea. Eritrea is like a Germany 2.0. He enslaves his whole country to servitude in nation building regimes. At the age of 16, you get subscribed into the Eritrea's military, and they assign you a role for 40 years. Then you retire and die. That sounds like a good life. Y'all serving the leader of Eritrea. I hope Ethiopia jumps in and kicks Eritrea's ass, takes over that country, and gets their water. That's my thoughts. But back to the actual story.
Diplomatic friction between the two nations, with both sides unwilling to back down. Ethiopia's determination to proceed with the dam, seen as a symbol of national pride and a means to propel its economy, directly challenges Egypt's vital interests, making the possibility of conflict over water rights a real concern. Somalia's grievances with Ethiopia are rooted in the complex politics of the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia has been a
Somalia is a terrorist nation and needs to go the way of the dodo bird as well. I hope Ethiopia takes them over as well.
crucial ally of Somalia's federal government in its fight against the Al Shabaab insurgency. However, relations deteriorated sharply when Ethiopia signed a preliminary deal with Somaliland, a self declared independent region that Somalia considers part of its territory, to lease a section of its coastline. This move enraged Mogadishu, which views Ethiopian engagement with Somaliland as a direct affront to its sovereignty. The presence of Egyptian military equipment and arms in Somalia, reportedly delivered in recent months, has also fueled suspicions that Somalia might be aligning with Cairo against Ethiopia.
Proof that Egypt is a terrorist nation looking to start wars for their own personal gain and the destruction of other countries.
Somali officials, including Information Minister Daud Awais, have publicly denied any intention to instigate conflict with Ethiopia. We are not determined to instigate anything against Addis Ababa, he told media outlets. Addis Ababa is our neighbor. We have been cooperating together for a long time, although later on their leadership came up with a factor of instability in the region. But still, we stand for peace, and we don't think that such a meeting in Asmara has anything to do with Ethiopia, he added. However, the optics of the summit tell a different story. The image of President Isaias Afwerki of Eritrea, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt, and President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed of Somalia clasping hands in Asmara.
All three of those guys are Little Hitler, Big Hitler. This guy, Eritrea, that guy there, he is worse than Hitler. This gentleman here is worse than Hitler. Learn the history of Eritrea for the past 40 to 45 years. This gentleman here is the terror of that nation. He runs that nation. He enslaves his people. He is a sick individual in my perception.
Mara sends a strong signal of solidarity among nations with shared grievances against Ethiopia. The summit's focus on strengthening Somalia's state institutions and military capabilities further suggests that this alliance could have a more strategic and possibly confrontational agenda. The emergence of this axis poses significant implications for stability in the region. If Eritrea, Egypt, and Somalia intensify their collaboration, Ethiopia could find itself increasingly isolated and pressured on multiple fronts, politically, economically, and militarily. The alignment of these nations, each with its own historical and strategic grievances against Ethiopia, might escalate tensions, potentially leading to proxy conflicts or even direct confrontations over issues like water rights, territorial sovereignty, and influence in the Horn of Africa. While these countries claim their cooperation is not targeted at Ethiopia, the regional dynamics suggest otherwise. In this intricate game of alliances and rivalries, the Eritrea-Egypt-Somalia axis could significantly shift the balance of power in the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia's ambitions for regional leadership and economic expansion might be met with a united front determined to counter its influence. This new alignment complicates the already volatile situation in a region plagued by political instability, armed conflicts, and economic challenges.
All I can say is pray for Ethiopia. They are the ones in the right, and Somali and Eritrea and Egypt are, in my opinion, terrorist nations looking to subvert law, order, and dominate their people and the countries next to them for their own personal gain. That is not how you do country building. That's how you do world war starting. So I do hope they get what they deserve. I do hope that Egypt crumbles and falters, and I hope that Ethiopia cuts off all the water so they dehydrate in their desert. Those little sick individuals. And Eritrea, I hope an earthquake comes or sandstorm comes and covers all of them up. And as far as Somaliland, I hope a freaking tsunami comes and washes them away. I do not like any three of those countries. And if you research, all three of those countries are nasty countries. You guys have a nice night.